Hello, Legend of the Samurai here with a rather special challenge lock. This is the Medeco original challenge lock as made by Supallama. So this has a bit of a reputation behind it. I believe I am the 8th person to receive it, and if I'm not mistaken, only the 3rd to successfully open it. But I will attempt to recreate that now, show that the key does in fact work. Oh, why did I do that? There we go. Now let's get it in the vise. And because it has rotational pins, we will do a cursory rake just to reset anything. And get to work. So there are many, many different levels of false set here, and several of them are traps. So I'll have to do my best to avoid that. So now I have to check, make sure I'm in the true gates. I think I might be, so I will go all the way into the false set, hopefully. There we go. Open. So this is a very complicated lock, and actually to reclose it, so show that the plug is in fact free, I actually get stuck in a trap that I managed to avoid. So I get to that point, and now it won't go in either direction, and I actually have to pick it closed again. Alright, so now, as we go through exactly why this lock is so special and so very difficult to pick. Show that the key does, in fact, still work. Alright. Tray. So I'm going to gut this from the top because I do not want to risk mangling any of the special pins by sliding the plug out. Preserve the order. I'll show them as I take them out. So this is a telescopic spooled pin, and its associated key pin has many false gates. Chamber 2 has the first of the llama pins. Which is a nail head with 3 free-floating wafers trapped on it. So that acts very strangely. And that key pin also has many false gates. We end up with another telescoping pin driver. And another key pin with many false gates. Here we have our second llama pin. Again, 3 floating wafers on a nail head. Act like a very, very weird spool and then a T-pin. And its key pin, again, has many false gates and 2 true gates. Have the last of our telescoping drivers, and this one's slightly different in that it does not actually go any further together than this, so it always acts like a bit of a spool. And there's the key pin. And then last but not least, we have the very low cut in the back. Keep this from falling out. Tiniest little T-pin. And then the key pin associated with it. Alright, so before I put the sidebar in this, I'll show a close-up of these pins. And now I will take out the plug. So the key pins and the drivers are hard enough. It picks like a Medeco cam lock with this hole style gate with a deeper true gate, and then it sort of picks like an M-heart in that there's no rotation limiter, so you can just freely spin these. It means there's 2 true gates, but you have to find one of them. And then you have to deal with the top pins, but then the real clever bit of engineering here is, well, first there's the sidebar. I will make sure that I do not lose these tiny springs. So this has been slightly modified. A normal Medeco sidebar has these fingers full width, and those were too wide to fit into these little gates, so these have been filed down to lock into those little gates, and they do so quite solidly. There's nothing particularly done to the core, but there doesn't need to be because there is bodywork. There are 3 sidebar grooves here. One in the middle is significantly shallower than the other 2, and what that means is the ridge between them is lower, and that means that you can actually get the sidebar to set over to that second groove in the false gates of the key pins. And this is the trap, because if you're at one of these false gates, most of which are below, or most of them are above the true gate on the key pin, so when they are engaged with the sidebar, the drivers are sitting below shear. And if you set over, any of these spooled elements can set over exactly the distance it takes to fall into that second sidebar groove. And so what ends up happening is you fall into that sidebar groove, and the spring pressure on the sidebar draws it all the way over, but you've trapped the wide element of the driver under the shear line. And you can't push up on it in order to get counter rotation and set it, because in the wider groove, the sidebar springs have pushed the sidebar back out, it has disengaged from the key pins, and you need to repick those in the other direction to get back to neutral. And as soon as you do that, the ramp into the groove, due to the sidebar spring pressure, almost always pushes you all the way back to neutral, and everything drops and you restart. So that is a brilliant lockout function. It took me a very significant amount of effort to figure out how to overcome that, and the only way I did it was to check pin heights before setting over into the false set, and the only way I could do that is because I knew the bidding beforehand. This is an unusual challenge lock in that you are supposed to know what's in here before you attempt to pick it, because otherwise there's almost no chance that it's going to happen. So here's our bidding. It's 414135. And the rotation on this, because it just happens to be what it was on the key, they're all centered except for 4, which is right. But if you're not rather experienced with Medeco, keeping key pins centered, especially when there's no limiter flag, is easier said than done. So I would like to thank Supallama for spending the time and effort to make this brilliant lock, and of course I have to thank him for giving me the opportunity to pick it for you. I'll show the internals one more time. Yeah, make sure I don't lose anything. Alright, there we go. Supallama's original Medeco challenge lock, picked and gutted. Thanks for watching, and have a nice day.